At the latest scan on wind, it has adjusted forward. I don't have quite the same circulation I had a moment ago there. In fact, what I think I have more than anything else is I have a significant damaging wind potential that has increased even more out of this. I'm going to look at the straight line wind potential out of this, and this again could be attempting, like what we had happen for locations in West Alabama earlier this year near the Winfield area. We had that strong wind that jutted ahead, and then it produced a tornado. That could be what we're looking at here. 73-mile-per-hour winds just south of West Point along 45 alternate. And so that is going to move here near the Waverly Golf Club there on the southeast side of West Point in particular. I'm going to pull up one of our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras there in the West Point area. We'll look, and this time here, my best camera to look south is going to actually be from Midtown here. The rainfall really yet to super pick up at this time, but as it looks south out of this camera, we'll try to see if we can get a shot of this. And unfortunately, we're looking down a little too far to get a very good look at this. So let's go back to the cameras. I'm going to look at our camera on the south side, which unfortunately is pointing the wrong direction. But maybe we can get a sense as to how this storm is behaving there. And certainly, you can see it getting dark. Too many cars on the road. If you know somebody who's heading out of West Point, typically in West Point this time of day, heading south along 45 alternate, tell them to stop in West Point. Certainly the north part of town if possible, but this is coming in with a strong straight line wind potential out of this storm that could potentially be trying to produce a tornado at this instance. So for folks there, heads up, this one could be rough. Certainly it has that area right there, just north of Tibby, where this is just north of the 45 and 82 intersection there, near Waverly Road. That's where this circulation is tracking at this moment. I have to go wider for a second. We have other areas we have to watch. I'm coming right back for you in mere moments. Down here, get you a storm track for Sugar Lock and Macon. We still have time before this arrives at a couple of those locations there. The radar definitely showing some very bright returns. Part of that is a radar error. Part of that is accurate. Fair Hill, we're looking for you 3 minutes. Sugar Lock in 9 minutes. Macon in 18 minutes. I'm coming back for you before this gets to Sugar Lock and Macon, but I have to come back to West Point because this is basically on top of them right now. So I apologize for that. We need to be in a tornado-safe place if we live down here in Noxubee County. I'm just going to double-check up north to make sure that we don't have anything else we have to hit right now. There's some wind. There's some areas of rotation. That one spot we were looking at west of Pontotoc earlier does not look as impressive as it did, thankfully, but still, we're watching that closely. We've got to come down here to Clay County. And as we encroach on location south of Clay County, I'm getting one of those radar errors. When I get this, that's usually an extreme wind situation where the radar is like, wait, I have a hard time figuring out what direction the wind is going. And that typically happens when we're getting some of our strongest wind reports. Our meteorologist, John DeLucic, with a picture coming in. Is it from this storm here? Check out 3. Okay, give me just a moment here. We're looking at West Point from this picture on 3. Okay, that's our West Point camera there. I mean, you can see that has arrived there with some of the heaviest rainfall. John, I mean, from this shot there, it looks similar to what we saw there in the Starkville area just a little bit ago.
That is correct. It's a pretty good breeze going through.
Yeah, so I'm gonna leave that up. I'm gonna leave that small here. So let's not get off of that for a moment here. I'm just gonna leave it small while we show you what is happening in West Point from 2 different angles on Storm Track Doppler radar. A significant wind situation and a potential that this is trying to produce a tornado. This is always concerning when you have a line and the ball here at the end. Let's make sure we don't have tornado debris on this thunderstorm. So this is on the southeast side of West Point. We've mentioned over and over again locations near the Waverly Golf Club. I cannot confirm at this instant. That's not to say that this isn't there, and that's awfully close. This is trying very hard on the southeast side of West Point. So here's Midtown, West Point, downtown. We're watching this very closely for you south of H.S. Vest Road, along Waverly Road, east of Ishman Avenue, south of Wiley Trail, an area of circulation that is extremely strong. And if I just check the straight line wind on this, I show 98 mile per hour straight line winds on this. So let's talk about something that doesn't matter. It does not matter if Matt says this is a tornado or not right now. 98 mile per hour winds is going to do tornado-like damage. So we need to assume that this is a tornado and at least react like this is a tornado. We've been talking about it before they even issued the tornado warning. We need to be in that tornado safe place on this thunderstorm if we live in West Point. That camera you saw a moment ago there, that was back here in the winds that were close to 50 miles per hour. That brightest green there are the winds that are close to around 90 miles per hour, as we showed you just a moment ago there. I'm going to go to the rotation mode, which allows me to actually kind of do a better job of picking out that exact pixel. Give me a moment while I point there. I want to make sure that I got the strongest speed on that. because that is a very significant return. And again, this is not necessarily, we'll clear that off, straight line winds. That is not necessarily winds that are 90 miles per hour at ground level, but that's aloft a little bit. So good, at least on the latest here, it is not coming in quite as strong. Hopefully that continues to be the case. But certainly, when I look at the rotation there, it's mainly straight line. And so now that has advanced somewhat more to Church Road. We have that moving. It'll be crossing Mississippi Highway 50. We don't need to be traveling on 50. If you know folks coming from Columbus on 50, we got to stop them. This is bad. This is strong, and is at least damaging winds moving now east of West Point. That's curled up there. I don't want to assume this is straight line winds. See how that's curled up there? A lot of times when these kind of thunderstorms produce straight line winds have a purpose. It's coming in and it's being deflected by those inbound. Remember those 38 mile per hour winds we said in Starkville, in West Point ahead of the storm? Those 38 mile per hour winds are out of the southeast. So the winds coming out of the storm here are deflected partially by the winds, and it causes the curve around, and that's where you get this area of circulation, that tornado. So Vinton, Whites, and even West Point proper, we've got to stay in that tornado safe place at this point here. This is just east of downtown. This is moving in a direction that should take it fairly close to Aberdeen. We need to get a look at this for folks there, and we do have a tornado warning they have issued. It looks like it'll stay south of the Aberdeen area. That's actually heading more toward Hamilton. So let's get a track on this. I'm going to put a track up, and then we're going to refine that track here in a mere moment. So let's get a time frame here. That's going a little more north than that, so let's make sure we have the right angle. I'm going to still include you, Aberdeen, in this track. We'll say Aberdeen in 17 minutes, just in case this heads more north than east. Derica in 9 minutes, Vinton in 5 minutes. And then I'm going to do one that's a little farther east than that, and I want to make sure it's not putting on Hamilton. So I'm going to specifically give you a time in Hamilton. In the Hamilton area, we're looking 10 minutes for you if it continues in your direction. I have to disengage. I'm really sorry. Before we do that, let's check for tornado debris. We have a tornado debris signature. We have a confirmed tornado on the ground just northeast of West Point. This is a confirmed tornado on the ground on Storm Track Doppler radar. How do we know this? When we see this blue area there, that is a low correlation. Correlation meaning that things align up, right? So if it's white, we have all the same thing, be it rain, be it whatever. And in this case, because it's a low correlation, that means we have rainfall, small, and we have larger things that are all within that shot there. National Weather Service now confirming this as a tornado touchdown. That's what this says here, confirmed touchdown, seeing the same thing that you saw first here on WTVA 9 News and Storm Track Doppler radar. So that area of circulation now from a tornado that has touched down and is moving in the direction of Vinton and Whites, moving out of West Point. So we have crews for the behind-the-scenes folks here. We have crews that are going to be making their way toward the West Point area to get more information on that tornado touchdown. We'll make sure, John or Alan, that we go over there and make sure that they're doing that now, so we do that. So let's get the exact angle right. Give me a moment as I kind of go behind the scenes and get that angle. I disagree with where the National Weather Service put their warning. I think East Aberdeen needs to be in this tornado warning here. I think the angle is a little sharper north. Athens as well. You're in the path of this tornado warning. Let's peel this off. Let's get you a longer warning. And I promised the folks down in Macon I'd talk about them. I have a confirmed tornado on the ground here. I've got to go south for at least a moment here. So Vinton, we're 4 minutes for you. Derricott in 8 minutes. Binford in 9 minutes. Aberdeen in 15 minutes. This is a tornado right now, this instant, on the ground, moving toward Athens in 21 minutes. Becker in 25 minutes, causing damage, and could eventually do so potentially in Amory. They'll probably stay just a little bit east, and Flynn within about 35 minutes, about similar time if it were to make it to the area there around Smithville. I'm going to go south here. Our long-lived circulation, and this one also could potentially be producing a tornado. I don't have that same debris, but there's still very strong rotation encroaching upon Sugarlock there. I show it moving toward Macon, McLeod there. We show Sugarlock 4 minutes, Macon in 14 minutes, McLeod in 16 minutes, X Prairie in 20 minutes, and Prairie Point in 22 minutes. Going to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, I'll show our circulation a little bit disjointed. And sometimes this happens, where our circulation does not match where we have it on the rainfall mode. It's close enough. You see it wrapping there. Sugarlock, we have to be in that tornado safe place. That's going to be the lowest floor of a sturdy structure. And while I'm far enough away, I can't confirm with Storm Track Doppler radar with that lower correlation there. We certainly need to treat this as such. So Sugarlock, this is coming right toward you. What has the potential to be a damaging tornado. We're kind of hitting that peak. You remember yesterday, last couple days, we talked, what is the peak time frame? 2 to 4 p.m. Where are we at? 2 to 4 p.m., the winds aloft are the strongest. The fuel's as great as it's going to be. The storms are in the right position. Sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor, small windowless room where you can wrap up in blankets and pillows and stay there until we can give you the all clear. And for folks that are ahead of this, that are in these unsafe places, if you're down the road here, Bigby Valley, if you live up there in Columbus, and you're ahead of this storm, we need to be in that tornado safe place, and we need to be steps away from it now. You can find those storm shelters right there. Put your camera up to the television screen and it'll give you a list there. I have to go north. We've got to bounce between these two because with potential we have 2 tornadoes at this instant here. Our tornado has exited or is exiting sections of Clay County right now. If you do live up here in Monroe County, we're probably running out of time to get to any of those designated shelters. Definitely watching it very closely. Let's go ahead and we'll peel down those storm shelters. Let's put up the tornado safety rules once again here for a moment. Let's go to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. I have what is a fairly strong tornado return showing up here on radar. Let's circle it for you so we can show you exactly where we're talking about near Vinton Road. Between Whites and Vinton. If you live in West Point proper, you can come out of that tornado safe place. This is now past the Yokohama plant. I'm sorry we didn't mention that sooner. We should have. But it's just past the Yokohama plant, maybe just a little bit east of that. So we're going to have to find out more information on that. But you've got to be in a sturdy structure, not just if you live in that circle where that arrow is pointed there, talking about the tornado warning and the confirmed tornado. But if you live ahead of this in Lackey, if you live ahead of this in Aberdeen, we need to have you in that tornado safe place as it's moving in your direction at this time. And so as I kind of draw out our storm track to show where this is going, we show now 5 minutes into Darragh. We show 13 minutes into Aberdeen. I don't like those times. Let's go forward a little bit more and slice off just a little bit. Well, about a minute we'll slice off on some of those there. But this is a confirmed tornado on the ground doing damage at this time. Reports of trees down from the emergency manager there in Clay County on Waverly Road and Barton Ferry Road. So the emergency manager in Clay County now reporting trees down on Waverly Road and Barton Ferry Road, also reporting trees down along Highway 50. That's where we saw this a moment ago where it produced that tornado damage. So now we have confirmed damage out of this storm over the last 5 minutes, continuing to move now into Monroe County. Now, one thing I can tell you, looking at the latest scan here, I do not, let's double check, it would be below my track there. Yeah, I do still show tornado debris right along the Monroe Clay County line. So here's the strong community, here's Darragh. This is south of Darragh. And this is an area circulation near Basinger, approaching Basinger and Richards Lake Road. This is the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway right there. And for folks near the Columbus Air Force Base, you're in good shape from this one, but certainly our area circulation still continues to show what are strong indications of a tornado. And that position's old now. Let's go with the new position. Rainfall looks to be running ahead there. So let's stick with the version of this that is the strongest. An observed tornado on the ground, confirmed at this instant, basically over top of the Darragh community. See how things change quickly? That's why we say don't wait till the last second here. So Aberdeen, Lackey, we show a tornado moving into your area right now. Darragh, it's overhead. East Aberdeen, we're now 8 minutes. You see how that sliced down? Radar is always at least a few seconds old. And so if there's any kind of backlog on getting it in there, it takes a few moments. By the way, Clay County, tornado warning canceled for you because this is now exited Clay County. Okay, here in about 10 minutes, we're going to talk with Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott on the phone as we continue to find more information on the damaging tornado that has moved through there at this instant. But if we live in Monroe County, we need to be assuming that this damage could be an issue for us in the very near future. I'm going to bring this in slightly closer on Storm Track Doppler radar, check for tornado debris. I don't show tornado debris as evident here on the latest scan, but certainly that area's circulation is strong and very noteworthy. Let's go ahead and pull down our tornado safety rules. Let's tell you where we stand as of 3:16, now 3:17 on this Tuesday. We're looking at a line of storms, mostly just rain, mostly just wind, but in a couple of cases we've had damaging tornadoes, including one in Monroe County now that was previously caused damage in Clay County, and another one in Noxubee County. We are looking closely here near Sugarlock, and this area of circulation has been very strong for hours. This storm running ahead of the line, as we talked about last night, in the last few days. Any storms running ahead have that extra oomph to produce tornadoes. This one in the zone where that is a possibility. Along 45 there, south of Macon. Macon, I still need you in your tornado safe place. We show less than 9 minutes for you with this area circulation. McLeod in 10 minutes. X-Prairie in 14 minutes. Deerbrook in 20 minutes. And 22 minutes into the Cliftonville area. A line of strong storms and an area of rotation that could potentially produce a tornado. So if your signal, for whatever reason, goes out, you can watch us live at WTVA.com/live or the WTVA News and Weather apps. Watching this very closely. And one positive thing, and there's not a lot positive with this at the moment, but one positive thing that we're looking at on this, and we've talked about, is this line was going to catch it. And as it catches it, it's going to try to kill this off. But that's still doesn't really do much for you if you're in Macon. But could help in Lowndes County, could help out here in Pickens County to diminish it. I still think all the way through Lamar County, this is probably going to require tornado warnings based on what we're looking at now. As we come into Columbus right now, looking at Storm Track Doppler radar, we have another one of these wobbles. Remember, we talked about wobbles, our QLCS, the quasi on the linear, the wobbles. Near GTR Airport, I show one of those wobbles right there. Is it a tornado at this instant? No. Could it become one? Yes. Are we going to track it like it's one? Absolutely, just in case. Moving on the north side of Columbus there, we show the Air Force Base within 13 minutes, Caledonia in 19 minutes, Malloy in 29 minutes, but Stephen in 1 minute, and Waverly in 4 minutes. That's the Waverly Mansion area, the historical place. That's where that is there. And then our strong tornado on the ground near Darracot. Still looks to be fairly strong on Storm Track Doppler radar, and that is at the very least damaging winds on the east side of that there. We have wind damage potential at the very least that's up there in excess of 90 miles per hour. What, I'm showing 95 miles per hour, and I might not, there's 100 miles per hour on that one. So 100 mile per hour winds, that's enough to cause tornado-like damage. We believe we have had at least one tornado that's touched down, and you noted earlier that tornado that touched down, when it caused damage, we haven't had damage the last 3 or 4 minutes. But when it caused damage, it kicked out that 90 mile per hour wind right before. So we could be looking at that happening once again. So let's look at the damage on Storm Track Doppler radar. We'll clear off all of those different wind returns. We don't have tornado damage at this instant there. But we still continue to show an area where that is possible, at the very least at the edge of that bow there, that we have damaging straight line winds and potential this could produce a tornado, or still honestly, still could potentially be a tornado as well. We're kind of splitting hairs here because we're close enough to the radar site that we can. That doesn't mean we necessarily should. A picture here coming in. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, here for just a moment here so he can tell us what we're looking at. If we can get his microphone up for just a second. Another one of those damaging pictures from across the area. John, what do we have? Okay, we'll get a moment here. We'll get his up and go, John.
Okay, well, I do not, or is it on what?
It looks to be from the Mississippi State campus.
Oh, that's Mississippi State. That's the one that was sent. That was from earlier, just about here, just during about when it was passing through the Starkville area. That's the picture we sent earlier. That picture from earlier, but that is most likely the same tree from the Mississippi State campus.
That is
on Engineering Row.
Okay, so there you go. So this tweeted out by the MSU police 2 minutes ago. Damage, a tree that was knocked over there. Damage reported on campus. How extensive is that damage? That's something that remains to be seen. But appreciate the force of those men and women in blue and red that go out in these situations. Firefighters, police officers to do spotting, to take care of things. We appreciate all the hard work they do. Stormy and Rhea will be live here in a few moments as we continue to kind of assess some of the damage from the Mississippi State campus. We're going to be there, and then we have to rotate out to the West Point area as well, where we know we've had tornado damage out of this. New tornado warning issued on the north side of here, and this is just house cleaning. The same spots we talked about, Aberdeen, Athens, Lackey, all still involved in this tornado warning. It's just the National Weather Service Memphis actually issuing the one that comes north. Their original one was down here. They've had to pull it back north because of the angle. This has had more of a northerly track to it. Looking at the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, good news, things have gotten better. They're not great, but things are better than they were just a moment ago here. Let's look at the straight line wind mode. Still probably going to be 70 mile per hour winds or greater. Some spots. No, I still 35, 40. It looks a little stronger than that, so we'll have to see if that data has fully updated where we can click it. But it looks less like we have a tornado on this, but still damaging winds moving toward Lackey there at this instant and continuing to work toward the east side of Aberdeen. Aberdeen, we still need you in that tornado safe place now, but because of the angle of what I have here, I'm going to do more of what we call a squall track, where we track the whole line, as opposed to a point track where we track a specific point. And the reason for that is I want to make sure we have some specific times, number one, and that we capture any areas along this line that might also try to spin things up. So Lackey, 326 view, Athens, 331, Quincy at 337, Wisegap, 339, Greenwood Springs at 341, Parham at 344, and Splunge at 346. So we have a live shot here from the television station. I want to cast some contrast here with what we're looking at in the Tupelo area. And again, this is one of those spots where you see the bending back there. Stormy here in a minute. This is from outside here, so we'll drop that. But certainly the heavy rainfall and the wind that you can see there kind of moving around the trees. But this rain and this wind is not as impressive. We'll come back to Storm Track Doppler radar, and appreciate the folks for getting us that shot there, being safe, shooting that from inside one of the covered areas at the TV station outside. That's why you don't see the rainfall on the camera there. You notice how there's a disparity between brightest red and green here. These storms are largely what I would refer to as elevated, meaning it's conceivable that what we're dealing with here are storms that maybe there's a little rotation, but that rotation is not going to make it down to the ground, at least based on what we're looking at this instant. That could change, but this is boding well for the northern half of the area, at least at this time. We got to go all the way south. We got to go to Macon here for a moment, then we're going to check Columbus. We're going to work our way up this line. Macon, this has been our long-lived storm. We were tracking this down in South Mississippi. We knew it would still be rotating in our area, and it's doing so on the southeast side of Macon. I will say I do hear drop sorting outside there because that sounds like extremely small raindrops, and sometimes when you get that sorting, that's a sign of organization. You hear the really heavy rain, and then it kind of picks up and it goes away. So interesting there, and we might check outside that tower cam shot here in a second. But Elon Road on the southeast side there of Macon near McLeod, moving toward X Prairie and Prairie Point. That's strong straight line winds and rotation all kind of wrapped up in one right along Mississippi Highway 14. So X Prairie for you, we're talking 5 minutes or less. Cliftonville, 13 minutes. Ravine in 13 minutes. Bigby Valley in 16 minutes. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation. And we are hopeful that the wind coming from behind will undercut this, because what you don't see at this moment here is you don't see two lines anymore, right? You don't have storm in front, line behind it. That merger is occurring. And while that merger occurs, there is still a sensitive time period, about the next 20 minutes or so, where the merger could actually aid this producing a tornado. But then it should undercut it, and then it should hopefully diminish that potential. That is what we are hoping for. But we have Doppler radar indicated rotation still here just east of Macon, moving toward Cliftonville. That will clip locations in Lowndes County. Let's get a shot there. That is a wrong position. Let's get a better position based on where rotation is. And we show that McLeod 3 minutes, X Prairie 5 minutes, eventually Forreston in 24 minutes, Whiteberry and New Hope in about a half hour. So on the southeast side of Columbus there, New Hope in a half hour and about 41 minutes into the Steens community. Doppler radar indicated rotation definitely there as well. Our Stan Dora on that thunderstorm, continuing to monitor it as he has been with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters all day. Here's Stan's shot there of kind of the lowering you see there and then the heavy rainfall with it. So at least there's a gap between the base of that cloud and the ground. Appreciate the good folks with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. They're invaluable resources and partners on days like this. As we look up into Lowndes County there, what we show are strong straight line winds. I don't have as much rotation. Let's check one of our cameras with the Mississippi Department of Transportation in the Columbus area. This one is going to be along 18th Avenue, and I believe this is 82 there. And while we're talking about this...
this is Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott.
Okay, so this is our Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott with us on the phone on WTVA 9 News Live with us today. I know, Sheriff, you have a busy time going on right now. What do you have for us?
Well, right now they're still getting all the initial assessments, but we know we've got some trees on some houses, some vehicles. We've got power lines that snap, roadways blocked. So really we just now getting into initial search and rescue. So we've got Highway Patrol and other units coming to try to assist us. But right now I'm trying to get in and check these houses to make sure. But we've already had several reports of trees down on houses.
So to this point, have you had any reports of injuries come in to E911 or anything like that?
Not yet. It's just real quick. There's some things happening with us. So we're just trying to get in to these residents, but getting off the main highways, getting some of these rural roads and streets a little problem right now. Some of our main roads are blocked, power lines, actually poles. I've already heard about 25 power poles have already been snapped.
20 to 25 power poles snapped. Is there anything you want to convey to folks at home at this moment here that could be watching us at this time?
If we ask, we'll just stay out of the area right now, because right now our biggest concern is search and rescue, get to these houses where somebody might be trapped or injured, getting these roadways opened up so we can get our ambulance fire trucks in there. So we're asking everybody to please just stay at home and keep an eye on the weather and let us do what we do.
Okay, we appreciate that. That's Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott. We appreciate you. I know this is an extremely busy moment, only 20 minutes after that tornado moved through town there and through the county. We really appreciate you taking a few moments, and we'll try to check back with you lately, and God bless, and hopefully everyone listens and stays off the roads at this time. Thank you so much for being live with us on WTVA 9 News. Again, Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott there. Appreciate the folks in the newsroom for getting back with us on that. And who was that there?
They didn't say anything.
Okay. So where do we sit as of 3:27? Let's give you an overlook here. We sit better than we did 10 minutes ago. Let's just say that. Well, I don't think I have a tornado on the ground here in Monroe County, at least not based on what I'm looking at a storm track Doppler radar. I think our area circulation has lifted over just the last 5 to 10 minutes here. We go back a few scans on storm track Doppler radar, clearly on the ground near Darragh, and then lifting somewhat. This is encroaching upon our radar site near the Greenwood Springs area there. We always say Wise Gap, that's what it comes in on our radar. And so along this area there, we could see it try to reform, but at this instant, it does look like our tornado has likely lifted within the last couple of moments here, or at least within the last 5 minutes. I'm getting a longer track because we have to go back down south where we don't have as good information. In this case, the radar data tells me I can disengage from this for a few minutes. And not everybody in this track is going to be in the primary area of circulation, but I wanted to cast a wider net just in case. And like we've asked you multiple times in the past, I'm going to ask you again, if you do know some folks that live in any of these locations there, snap a picture of the television screen and please send a picture to that person letting them know about the time that this could arrive for their location and the tornado safety rules that go along with that. It is conceivable that this storm could produce another tornado. Once it's done it, it's very likely it will do it again, and so that is our concern at this instant here. So take a picture of the screen, let them know that this is coming toward them. And by the way, if we could, Alan or Gabe, we need to, in chat, let them know that we've had 15, 16 power poles knocked down in and around the Clay County area. They have some trees on homes, things like that, to make sure the Weather Service in Jackson knows that information. That according to the Sheriff, Eddie Scott, who we talked to live on WTVA 9 News just a couple of moments ago. So we kind of clear this off. We've got to go back down to Noxubee County here for a second because that is more of an unknown situation, and in this case, unknown is not good. You don't see this icon very often, and it only usually shows up farther away from the radar site, but that is where Storm Track Doppler radar says it's possible that there could be some tornado debris, so that's just something there that gets my attention. In this case, I don't think that is the case. That has more to do with just a radar artifact. Regardless, what it also sees is a strong area of rotation near Prairie Point Road. There's a kind of shift here. This typically should be more green showing up there than what we have, but because of this strong winds ahead of this, that's what we have. So near the X-Prairie area and Prairie Point Road, and that moving toward Ravine and Bigby Valley, that's our area of circulation that we've been tracking for well over an hour, close to 2 hours now, all the way back to the South Mississippi. Now that's moving still toward Bigby Valley. We show it over X-Prairie right now. Cliftonville in 8 minutes, Bigby Valley in 11 minutes, Forston in 19 minutes, Whiteberry in 24 minutes, and Lake Lowndes in 26 minutes. Doppler radar indicated rotation, and that's where we sit on this. You might notice here at the top, on that storm up north, we had it said tornado confirmed. This says tornado warning. That's a subtle difference if I don't mention it on the air, that you at home can look and see what we're dealing with here. It'll let you know if we have a tornado warning, if it's a tornado emergency, which is about the highest level tornado warning that we can have. In this case, it's Doppler radar indicated rotation when you just see the words tornado warning on there. And at this instant here is thankfully not confirmed. But certainly heavy rainfall, flooding rainfall, and damaging winds a possibility, and that is still a hybrid storm. It still looks just as strong as some of the other ones we've had, but it's now no longer one of those storms that's out ahead and has some of those benefits to it. Benefits for it, not necessarily benefits for us. Let's look at the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar as we continue to kind of monitor things. Let's go through Lowndes County here. We visited one of our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras there in Columbus a moment ago. I want to see how things have improved. We're looking along Highway 82 and 18th Avenue East as we look there, and still bouncing around quite a bit. Downtown Columbus, I'd say similar shot there. The wind is now out of a kind of a shifting direction there, corner more out of the west and northwest, so we have yet to see an update on the reporting station there, but it's wet. It looks like any other rainy day there in Columbus. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time looking at that there, as the worst is through the Columbus area at this moment. Even though we do have a couple of spots where we have maybe a little bit of broad rotation, I don't along that leading edge there see an obvious spot where we're talking about a tornado on the ground at this moment, thankfully. Let's come northward. Let's come to Monroe County. Again, As you heard a moment ago, this damaging tornado within the last half hour moved through Clay County. That storm has watched the circulation go from where it was bright green there to less impressive now. It's still in a zone that has to be monitored, and what I'm going to check here for a moment. We talk about lightning as kind of an indicator. I want to see how much that held true when this was around West Point. So it did not have a huge lightning spike when it was around West Point, but there was a decent one. The reason I note that is because there's this clustering just southeast of Amory. Amory, I know part of town is under this tornado warning. If you live in Amory proper, you're okay from this. I'd still like to keep you in a tornado safe place if you're willing to give me 5 more minutes. But Quincy, Greenwood Springs. So, I mean, listen, we're not talking very far outside of city limits there. And you know how sometimes these city limits go. There could still be some addresses out here, but we're about 8 miles outside of the Amory area where I'm most concerned about the circulation. Now, I need to see if that is yet to update. So my green and red there is because this is yet to update. But right along 278, very near 278 is where our circulation will continue to update here in just the next second. So let's see if we get the latest scan in as we look at that loop. Still kind of a wiggle there, but we don't have it producing, at least in my mind, a confirmed tornado at this instant. Now, still strong straight line winds, and I don't want to downplay that potential because, as we've seen from time to time, some of those wind gusts have been up in excess of 60 to 70 to, on here, estimated close to 100 miles per hour before some of those tornadoes have touched down. So currently, some significant concerns still related to the wind. Let's get a storm track on that, and really this whole line as it kind of advances toward the northeast. And I'm going to track it from the rainfall mode here. Now, I do know we have some crews down there in Oktibbeha County that are getting in position to give us some live pictures of some of the damage. I don't know. Okay, so they're heading to Clay County now because of the more significant damage reports that we've had. So I'm giving you kind of a wider track here. Not all locations in this track are under the severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings, but a few remain at this moment here still under that tornado warning, especially when you start talking about locations closer to the radar site there. But so you can see some times, wanted to give you an advanced heads up here as we can kind of continue to assess the situation at 3:34 on this Tuesday. I'm going to bring in our meteorologist, Alan Matthew, if I could, and Alan's probably on John's mic. Are you on weather mic here? We'll go ahead and get that on here in just a second as he's getting that all clipped on. And I want to kind of assess. You've been watching social media much more closely than I have because clearly I'm talking more than I'm looking at that. Are you seeing any reactions on social media that we need to know?
I was looking into a picture map here just a few minutes ago, still working to confirm it, but it would be some damage associated with wind potentially. Looks like some trees broken and stuff. I'm working on that. But aside from that, also, we did have some footage come through of winds on the campus of Mississippi State University. Mm-hmm. A while ago, you talked about the very strong straight-line wind potential there, so we did see that as well. But those are two main things that I've seen so far since I've been up here.
Okay. So at this point, have you seen anything that indicates maybe injuries or things along those lines?
No.
Okay. That's good. Hopefully that remains the case. We'll have to watch it. And I know that for some folks that do have access behind the scenes, we're getting a lot of pictures coming in on the email from the WTVA weather app. So I'm going to mention that. If you can pull up my email over there, there should be a weather pictures folder that has some of those. There's a lot of pictures. I know not all those are going to be from, I see a lot from Thaxton, Starkville. There's one there and some other that might be more applicable, including looks like there's one storm damage. I think that's one we had earlier from Holmes Community College. But yeah, so if there's some in there that we can kind of put into the Slack chat, I'd appreciate that. I know the folks behind the scenes juggling a lot of things at this instant. I really appreciate that. Okay. So current time is 3:36. You're watching a tornado warning for Monroe County for a thunderstorm. We were just on. Got to make sure we pop south and we don't miss something down there on this because that cell merger occurring as we speak. Our rotation's still broad. See how you have bright red up here toward Cliftonville and your brightest green ahead? It's still broad. Could that consolidate? Yes. Is it being disrupted by that line of wind coming in from the west? Yes, and that is a good thing that hopefully is aiding in the lack of tornado development. But this is in a kind of a tenuous time, the next 20, 30 minutes, where as the winds kind of undercut this and push this, that this bows out, that maybe that starts to spin up. Pickensville, Forreston, Ethelsville, Beards Mill, Carrollton, Pickensville again. I mentioned you twice because you're probably one of the most likely locations, other than Prairie Point where it's over right now, to possibly see this intensify and attempt to produce a tornado again, because this has had a history when it was down toward Kemper County of producing at least a tornado touchdown. Look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. It is still fairly broad, and I do feel like I'm going to go to a shorter loop. Let's make this a 15-minute loop so I can stand back and kind of look at it for a moment here. That this might be pushing a little farther away. So rather than staying tighter, that it's actually broadening. So we might be past this one producing a tornado. I know certainly it's kind of looked like an uphill battle the last few minutes here. That is an excellent sign because it looks like it's being undercut. So while we're stretching it, we get that kind of S shape. Because this was previously its own beast doing its own thing, that has kind of, that's certainly working in our favor. Let's get a track ahead nonetheless because, again, radar's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody, no thing, no entity is perfect. We want to take our safety rules seriously, prepare ahead, hope for the best, but obviously prepare for the worst. In Pickensville, we're 9 minutes away from this area that has previously caused damage, that's probably not causing damage now, that may or may not produce a tornado, but is, I think, significant enough that if you live in Forston and Ethelsville, that we need to take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and go to that tornado safe place just in case. We're 30 minutes out from Reform and about 36 minutes out from Millport, Kennedy in 44 minutes, Kingville in 47 minutes. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation that could potentially produce a tornado at some point in the future. As we slide northward here, along this line, this is primarily straight line winds from east of Columbus near Steens and Caledonia up here into Monroe County. As we kind of look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, I'm going to track that as such, as a straight line wall of wind and water. Moving eastward, we show that there. As you can see, some times there, Ethelsville 347. We're looking at Solent in about 351, and Kennedy 405. This is a different area for Kennedy and for some locations such as Belk, what we were talking about just a moment ago there. So we have two things kind of working together. Getting a shot here from Blake in Clay County, some of our first pictures seen here live on WTVA 9 News of some of the damage in the Clay County area. For whatever reason, that says binary file showing up there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can, give me just a moment. It's not full screen, but we're going to put it on here anyway. And so this is a picture of some of the tree damage in Clay County. Blake sending us this picture here of that. Our meteorologist, Alan Matthew, working behind the scenes with that. So damage in Clay County, as you heard earlier, at least 12 to 15 power poles knocked down there, power outages, some trees into homes. No injuries reported from Clay County. Sheriff Eddie Scott, when we talked to him just a little bit ago on WTVA 9 News, but certainly some tree damage there. As you can see on your screen alongside me, MSU has some down large trees on the Starkville campus. No injuries reported, but some damage to parked cars. MSU PD and MSU Student Affairs are still assessing, and that brings up a good point. And Sheriff Scott mentioned this a minute ago. There is always a time to help out. Now's not that. Law enforcement, while the storms are ongoing, this first hour or two after the fact, sometimes 3 or 4 hours, depending on the situation, needs to get in and needs to assess where the damage is. Crews need to come in, shut off gas. Power crews need to come in, make sure lines are off so that you don't end up getting electrocuted. There's a lot of hazards after a tornado touchdown occurs. And so while we appreciate and it is necessary that we help one another, and we have a lot of well-meaning people, let's give it some time if we're in Clay County here or if we're in Starkville before we go out and attempt to do some volunteer help. There's going to be time in the days and weeks ahead for that, depending on how harsh that damage is. It did not look like a super significant tornado, but it definitely had very strong winds with it, enough to cause some damage. So you always assume the worst and hope for the best. So there'll be time to help out those folks, but now is not the time. Now is the time to let law enforcement, let crews get in and do what they need to do. As we're in here very close on Monroe County, something that we wouldn't see probably even West Point away, this little notch right there, same part of the storm that previously produced that tornado. We'd be in the infancy of one of those rotations, but it is showing up there almost right over top of the radar site, just north of Greenwood Springs. And part of the reason I think some folks out here think Monroe County is, this zone where we always have tornadoes is because we have the equipment to see it that close there. And so this circulation, if we were looking in Tupelo, I don't know that we'd be able to see one this small. Is this a tornado? Probably not. Could it become one? Maybe. It's certainly the most likely location that we can visibly see here where that's that potential in the WTVA 9 News viewing area at this instant. This is likely to stay east of Smithville. There might still be some Smithville addresses out here, but Splunge, 3 minutes. We're 19 minutes in Academy, an area of circulation that is increasing. It is within a tornado warning, and thus, even though the tornado warning was originally issued for a different circulation, one that had a confirmed tornado, I would be getting my tornado safe place if I live in Splunge. This is 3 minutes from you, and no one necessarily lives in Splunge, but you live near Splunge. So if you live near the Splunge community, getting that tornado safe place, the middle of a sturdy structure, the lowest floor, a small windowless room where you can wrap up in blankets and pillows just in case that ends up taking the next step and producing a tornado. That circulation still shows up there. In the last couple of scans here on Storm Track Doppler radar, and there's concern that it will continue to. We should have a new scan in just a second, so I'm going to wait on that. I don't like waiting on radar data because there's other storms we need to track, but it gets us an updated position just east of Sipsey Fork. There, just to the south of Hatley-Detroit Road at its intersection with Splunge Road there and Hatley-Detroit Road. Right there is where I have our circulation at this moment working its way northward. Is it a tornado? Not at this instant. Could it become one? Yes. Is it damaging? Probably, considering previous history on this thunderstorm. I'm going to look at 278. Hold on real quick for a second here. No, we're okay. Sometimes you get something to curl back around on the back side here. You also get a circulation there. That does not look like it at this moment, but a sincerely suspect-looking storm that will require us to kind of look at it a couple of times. A reminder, we do try to show the folks that do the right thing here. This sent in from Pat in Pontotoc a little bit ago. Safe place selfie. You can share your safe place selfies rather than going outside and dealing with, trying to track the storm yourself. Your safe place selfie is a way in which you can contribute to our coverage here and just remind folks that it is okay to do the right thing and stay inside if necessary from these storms. So appreciate Pat for sharing that one for the Pontotoc area a little bit ago. As we come in closer, our other primary thunderstorm down here near Cliftonville and Big Bee Valley, an area of circulation that previously produced damage when it was down in Kemper County, has weakened substantially since then. Still an area of circulation, but talking with the National Weather Service in Birmingham, they are probably not, unless something changes, probably not going to issue a tornado warning on this as it advances into Pickens County. I'm going to get a storm track on this, but they're seeing the same thing we're seeing, which is that the storms have kind of undercut this, and it's doing that merger thing we were talking about, which has saved the Columbus area and kept it from going into there. So we show Forreston and 10 minutes, Big Bee Valley. It's right over top of you right now. Coal Fire in 24 minutes, Fernbank in 33 minutes, and Millport in about 34 minutes. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation. Difficult to say for sure if it's going to produce a tornado, but certainly something we have to watch. New severe thunderstorm warning will be coming out from Marion County, Alabama. The same area circulation that prompted the tornado warning that caused the tornado touchdown near West Point and in southern Monroe County is what we are dealing with here. And we might try to touch base with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office or emergency manager here in a few minutes if we can, just to kind of check and see what's going on, see their reports there, because that tornado did continue on the ground into sections of Monroe County. Our area circulation near Sipsey Fork is probably still our strongest at this instant as of around 3:45 near Splunge Road, where that is at this moment, moving toward Detroit. Hamilton, Alabama, conceivably in the path of this. We'd be looking about 23 minutes into Hamilton, Alabama. Let's reset here for a moment. Let's tell you where we stand as of 3:45, now almost 3:46. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, alongside our meteorologists Alan Matthew and Gabe Maynor. Gabe, one thing I do want to try to do in a moment here is get those power outages back up here. They're up and ready to go? Okay, let's pull that up here. So we've had a number of power outages that have been reported, quite a few around our area today. If you'll mouse over some of these, we'll kind of start with Attala County and locations back southwest. So Attala County, we still have about 1,400 people without power at this instant. This data coming in from poweroutages.us. As we go up toward around Webster County, we're about 200 folks without power. Clay County, where we had that tornado touchdown, we have about 1,400 people without power at this time. Chickasaw County, which is north of that, about 58. And over in Monroe County, we have about 99 people without power. So according to the sheriff there, we expect that those numbers of power outages to go up as more information continues to come in. Of course, the monitoring isn't perfectly live. Go up to Union County real quick there, because I noticed we do have some there, about 100 there out. And there are a few other spots where we've had reports of some power outages as well. Appreciate that. That's our Gabe Maynor as we kind of check the latest related to that. As we continue to look outside of our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras, you're looking live there in the Columbus area. Columbus has largely escaped the worst of this, but we do have, of course, people attempting to assess, the situation there. Want to stay off the roadways. They're wet. There's going to be some flooding rainfall potential, still a possibility there as well. But the heaviest, thankfully, is through the Columbus area and in really Caledonia at this instant here, and northern Monroe County is really where it is the strongest. And where you do see this warning, you'll notice it is still one of those where it says severe thunderstorm warning, rotation detected. And that's where I think we're going to spend the majority of the remainder of today, is in this potential, maybe, possibly phase. And for a large subsect of us, we have seen the worst of what we will see, and it will not get worse from here. We've already seen the cancellation of our tornado watches, meaning the ingredients are no longer favorable in Oxford, in Calhoun City, in Eupora, in Ackerman, and down here in Kosciuszko. We've had damage in some of these locations. We're still working to assess that damage, but at least as of the latest update here, we're really past the worst of it as far as you are concerned for what we have. We put on all of our watches and warnings, so still ongoing with a number of them, especially along the Alabama state line. As we take a slightly wider perspective, there are still some thunderstorms north of Meridian that we are watching that could eventually clip locations in Pickens County. So the storm initially moving into Pickens County is going to be just a little bit below official tornado warning levels, and we still continue to have obviously folks there that we are watching in that tornado warning near Cliftonville and far northeast corner of Pickens County. As we bring this back to Storm Track Doppler radar and we show where that storm is that merger, that joining of it with that line that has largely undercut it. The rain cooled air that powers the strong winds also, if it can get in the right spot, can cut off the tornado potential, and we believe that's what's happening here near Pickensville as the circulation on this, what was previously a lead storm, continues to weaken and broaden somewhat. Let's look at the wind mode here. I still have what are fairly significant wind returns on the north side here. It is still trying, it is still surviving, but the lower level winds are not quite right on this. So let's get a storm track based on kind of that latest look there. I'm going to use the wind mode to make sure we do that, and we kind of get the right spot on this. I'm going to have it toward Ethelsville, Millport. I'm going to get a longer track as we go ahead on this. We show that moving toward Ethelsville in 11 minutes, McShann there, as you can see that time frame there, within about the next 13 minutes, Millport in 27 minutes, working its way toward Haituki in about 36 minutes, Kennedy in 32 minutes, and Vernon in about 40 minutes as we continue to look at this. According to our Craig Ford, who has spoken with Monroe County Sheriff Kevin Crook, no reports of damage at this moment in the county. Hopefully that remains the case, but at least a good sign there. Of course, power outages continue to be an issue, as I'm just going back through some of our discussions we have behind the scenes here. And of course, as we mentioned, we had previously some other reports of damage, not just in Clay County, but also back into Montgomery County a little bit earlier on as well. Back to the rainfall mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar. So let's kind of walk up and down the line. That's what you have to do in this situation. Before we go up, we need to come down here to DeKalb. So this is right there, just southeast of town, our area of circulation on another one of these storms. It's trying hard. It's still just a little ahead of the primary line. See how the line is just a little bit back behind it? Or at least, at the very least, the line is a broken line. Anytime we have a broken line like this, there's a little bit more enhancement. No, those are still lead storms, still lead supercells there. So, yeah, that one, Pickens County, still watching that very closely for you. Let's get a storm track on that kind of extends into Pickens County. As that one goes through Scuba, I know we have a lot of folks that in the area that have friends or family that go down to East Mississippi Community College there, so it's pretty much over top of Scuba within 7 minutes. I'm going to adjust that time. That might be just a little bit slow. There we go, about 5 minutes there into Scuba. We show it into Cooksville in 21 minutes. We're looking at Fair Oaks there in about 23 minutes. Dancy in 25 minutes. Memphis, Alabama in about 34 minutes. And working its way toward Pickensville, 42 minutes. Maybe New Hope. I think New Hope are probably clipping the wrong spot there. I think it probably stays a little east of you. If the one north is staying east, this one probably stays east. But just kind of giving some heads up just in case something wacky happens. Okay, so continuing to see some tweets and things come in. The locations where we've seen damage previously continue to be the areas we're most concerned. But we do have new severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued for parts of our area, including one where they're going with tornado possible. That coming from the folks at the National Weather Service in Huntsville. That is the yellow and orange box that we have here. Rotation detected on this storm here. Obviously, this is the line that's moving through Boonville, moving into Tishomingo County, and down here toward Fulton as well. There haven't been a lot of warnings on this to this point because the National Weather Service in Memphis is going to treat this a little differently than the National Weather Service in Huntsville has. Part of the reason for that is we have at least had some damage reports from this line before. This coming in from, I believe this is Kristen, via the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters in the Pontotoc area. A picture of what looks to be some kind of tree damage there from a tree that was knocked down in the Pontotoc County area. We mentioned earlier we had some rotation move through. This is probably straight line winds. Does not look to be as significant as some of the tree sizes we've seen down around the Mississippi State campus, but certainly one that we'll have to watch and see if we get some more information back in on. But that's the kind of sporadic tree damage and potential to maybe see something spin up that we see out of this line. There's still some spots up around Boonville, or we have some interactions up here near Theo and Boonville, but they're a little below severe limits on this line there. So let's kind of track that whole kind of batch there to give you some times as that continues moving east and northeast. Speed on that overall line about 50 to 55 miles per hour is what we've been tracking at most of the afternoon. So new site 359, that's within about the next 6 minutes or so. Red Bay at 407, Belmont at 409, Corinth at 403. Look at Burnsville 417, Iuka 424, and out of the WTVA 9 News viewing area shortly after that point and time. So let's clear that off. Let's continue to go back down here. Our storm that should be exiting Monroe County is one of our strongest still at this moment here. Still has tornado possible as its discussion. As we look into Detroit, I see what looks to be a tornado about to spin up again. We're near Detroit. This looks exactly the same as what we had when it was down in Oktibbeha County moving into Clay County. Because as we've talked about on a couple of occasions, look for the fist. Do you see how you have a fist there? I mean, it literally looks like a balled up fist, right? And so as that's punching ahead, that's our area of circulation that's moving toward Hamilton, Alabama, and moving toward I-22. Let's get a time frame there as it encroaches upon I-22, an area of rotation that could be a tornado in the generation phase as we speak near Pierce Road in the far southwest corner of Marion County, just north of Detroit. Detroit in Lamar County. House cleaning, regardless, you know folks in Detroit, and you know folks in Hamilton and Bexar, or they'll be traveling along I-22. We need to make sure they know that they have something that could be damaging moving toward you. It will likely pass over top of I-22 just west of the westernmost exit in Hamilton, Alabama, within the next 9 minutes. This is a Doppler radar indicated area of rotation that could potentially be a tornado in the development phases. We have a new scan. Let's look closer. The wind has not arrived. The damage is not conclusive. The rainfall is there, and we should have new information on this within mere moments. Let's give this about 10 more seconds, and we'll know whether or not this has taken that next step, and this has tried to produce a tornado. So let's now look at the wind mode here. I don't think that's updated yet. Let me check. That is not up to date. We should get a new scan here in a moment. Let's see if the debris, again, inconclusive at this time. But I show that near just north of Junction Bottom Road, just north of the Lamar-Marion County line, just north of Alabama Highway 17 in the southeast corner of Marion County, moving toward I-22. This is going to be a close call. Let's double-check its angle related to not quite tornado on that, not certainly what we had down south, but trying very hard. Not quite what we had there in Clay County. Let's see if that's the latest debris. Yeah, that is. That's the latest scan on that, I think. So no tornado debris on this. Trying very hard. Farther north, and again, as we talked about when you talked about those different colors, trying very hard becomes something that does farther north as opposed to being successful at producing tornadoes, but not quite at that point yet. So let's get the angle right. Let's get you a good track and make sure we get a good angle on this. So I have that, yeah, just a little bit west of that westernmost exit there in Hamilton along I-22 east of Tremont. That area of circulation one we definitely have to watch. Let's get a storm track on that ahead. This is going to cast a slightly wider net. As you can see, we're very refined on where that tornado is. This is a much wider track than that. They cast a wide enough net that we show Bexar in 9 minutes, Scottsville in 14 minutes. As you'll note, it does not have Hamilton in this track, but clearly within about the next 6 or 7 minutes, west side of Hamilton, still probably some Hamilton addresses there. That is a potential that this could try to produce a tornado. It's rotating vigorously. Is it at that level to produce a tornado? Maybe not quite yet, but it's awfully close. It's very borderline, and it's the exact same part of the thunderstorm that created this damage when it was in Clay County. I'll show a picture. Unfortunately, it's not our prettiest picture. We might just screenshot that and pop it in there if we can. And if we can, let's bring up our Alan Matthew for a moment, his audio for just a second. He has something we need to talk about on that. Go for it, Alan.
Yeah, Matt, if you do want to take a look in SLAT, we were able to get some video footage of what could be the storm that passed through West Point earlier.
Okay, which one of these is it going to be?
This is going to be the one from...
Is it the Clay County near Yokohama?
Yes.
Okay, that would be very close. Okay.
Yes.
So when I pull this up here, I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to have you talk about where this came from, what you know. I mean, that's
right,
sheets of rainfall for sure.
Yeah, that's not the right one, Matt.
That's
That
not
one's
the right
actually from Blue Springs. See if you got one from
Okay,
Matthew
hold on.
Charles.
Let me double check it. I'm looking at. Hold on. Is it recent or is it up there a ways?
This is 353, so it should be recent.
Okay, I see it. Screen recording, possible twister.
Yeah,
Okay. So let's go with that. Let's bring it up where folks can see it. Let's bring that in closely. So who is this from?
This was from Matthew Charles Ott. That's who took the recording. We have permission to show this to folks, but you can see, Matt, there what looks like it could have been the what prompted the tornado warning.
I mean, it could be a tornado.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm assuming the south side, is this south side of West Point on that truck stop there? Is that where we're looking?
Not 100% sure if it's going to be the south side, but possibly.
Okay, I'm going to start that over really quickly for folks, and you can see some strong. I believe this is in the West Point area. We're working to get the exact location as to where it was to verify it. But that possible tornado we're talking about there, that exact same part of the thunderstorm that's moving near the west side of Hamilton, Alabama at this point. As I slide southward, I want to make sure we're not missing anything. Reform, we're still good at this moment. So let's come up here close to Hamilton. As we know, we have quite a few viewers that watch us from around the Hamilton area. Let's look here at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, still showing that circulation. It is not what it was when it was in Clay County. We don't have quite the same organization now. This is still probably damaging winds along this red area, and the reason it's green there and red now is in Clay County, it's coming up toward the radar site, and now when it's in Marion County, it's going away from the radar site. That's where the away section of this comes in.